In a quaint little town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there stood an old shop that most people overlooked. Dusty windows and creaking floorboards marked it as a place forgotten by time, yet those who ventured inside were greeted by a wonderland of antique clocks. These clocks were not ordinary. They were relics of a bygone era, each with a story of its own. Among them, one clock stood out, a grand, intricately carved timepiece with a face of ivory and hands of polished gold. It was known simply as the Timekeeper. The clock had no label, no price, and no sign of ownership. The locals whispered tales of its origins, some saying it had been there since the town was founded, others claiming it had been passed down through generations of shopkeepers who never aged. The current owner, Mr. Alistair, was a man of few words, his age indeterminate. He took great care of the clocks, especially the Timekeeper. It hung on the wall behind the counter, its pendulum swinging with a steady rhythmic tick that echoed through the shop. Strangely, though it appeared to work perfectly, the hands never moved from 12 o'clock. One misty evening, a young woman named Elara entered the shop. She had always been drawn to unusual things, and the rumors about the mysterious clock had piqued her curiosity. Mr. Alistair greeted her with a knowing smile, as if he had been expecting her. Without a word, he led her to the Timekeeper. Elara felt an inexplicable pull toward the clock. It was as if the ticking was speaking directly to her, urging her to reach out and touch it. Hesitant but unable to resist, she placed her hand on the cold, smooth surface of the clock face. The moment her fingers brushed the ivory, the ticking stopped. The entire world fell silent. Elara looked around in confusion. The ticking had ceased, but so had everything else. Outside the shop's window, raindrops hung suspended in the air. Birds were frozen mid-flight, and the bustling town beyond the glass was eerily still. She turned to Mr. Alistair, but he too was motionless, as if frozen in time. Panic set in, but before Elara could pull her hand away, a deep, resonant voice echoed through the shop. "You have awakened the Timekeeper," it said, not from Mr. Alistair, but from the clock itself. "You have the power to stop time, but with great power comes a great responsibility." Elara's heart raced. She had always dreamed of adventure, but this was beyond anything she could have imagined. "What does this mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. The clock's hands slowly began to move, but not as they should. Instead of marking the passage of seconds, they spun backward, faster and faster, until they settled on a time long past. The shop around her dissolved, replaced by the vibrant scene of a different era. Elara found herself standing in the middle of a bustling town square. The same town, but in another century. People moved around her, unaware of the strange visitor in their midst. She was no longer an observer of history, but a part of it. The clock's voice whispered in her mind, "You can step into any moment, alter the course of events, or simply observe. But be warned, time is fragile. The smallest change can ripple through eternity." Elara wandered through the past, marveling at the sights and sounds of a world she had only read about in books. She saw great events unfold, witnessed moments of joy and sorrow, and met people long gone. But the weight of her power bore heavily on her. She knew she could not remain in the past forever, nor could she tamper with it without consequences. Finally, she returned to the moment where it all began, back to the shop in the frozen world. The clock's hands were still at 12, waiting for her decision. "You have the choice," the voice said, "to return everything to how it was, or to walk away, leaving time forever altered." Elara knew what she had to do. With a deep breath, she placed her hand on the clock once more and willed it to move forward. The ticking resumed, and with it, the world around her sprang back to life. Mr. Alistair blinked, as if waking from a dream, and smiled at her. "You did well," he said softly. The clock, now just a clock again, hung silently on the wall, its secret safe once more. Elara left the shop, the weight of what she had experienced still heavy on her heart, but with a newfound appreciation for the delicate balance of time. As she walked away, she couldn't help but glance back at the shop, half expecting to see Mr. Alistair watching her. But the windows were dark, and the shop seemed as empty as ever. She knew she would never return, but the memory of the clock that stopped time would stay with her forever, a reminder of the fleeting, precious nature of every moment. And so, the Timekeeper waited, its secret safe until the next curious soul would come along, drawn by the call of time, ready to learn its mysterious lesson. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to Shadow Veil Tales.